Hey guys, it's Max. How's everyone doing? Right now we're going to have a YieldMax report. So it's 125 here in West Austin, hill country of South Texas. I made a new chart I'm kind of proud of. Okay, this chart's called Triple Threat. Triple Threat, there's an Austin significance to the name Triple Threat. You guys probably know it, but maybe I'll say it some other time. But anyway, Triple Threat. Okay, so what I did, the blue line is how far out of the money the call spread is. One problem with this chart is if the ETF doesn't have a call spread on, they won't show up on this chart. Or if they close the call spread and they're totally capped, I need to figure out a way to deal with that. And I'll work on that. I just got an idea. But then the second line is how much the high yield fund is up. It's just from the second part is just your standard buffer report, and then that's how much the parent asset is up. So right now Square's up to, and we can tell by looking at a glance, Square is not doing well at all compared to the parent, but it's out of all these funds, it's the closest to being in the money. Now I had to do something here. If I made these the real in the money amount, this is actually 1.4% out of the money, and this is actually 35% out of the money. If I made them the real percents out of the money, it made the scale too big. So I divided it by 10, but they're still the scale. So even though it says 0.14, it's actually 1.4% away from being in the money. This one's 3.5%. Scale's still fine. I mean, I'm just trying to look at a visual thing. Oh, this one's doing well. Oh, this one's not doing well. And, an easy way to tell. So let's see if we can, if I could give an example of it. Well, any of these that are on the bullish side, they're obviously doing well. We obviously we would expect the ones that are closer to being in the money to be doing well, but it's awesome when these are doing well. Like Snowy's outperforming the parent asset, even though it's still 4% out of the money. For whatever reason, people are still optimistic about it. AMZ is doing great, not quite outperforming the parent. They're catching about 90% of the upside. Whereas you could kind of tell at a glance, Square looks like it's having a problem because it's catching very little upside, despite the fact that it's the closest to being in the money. All right, well, let's see. So we have another way to look at this too, and we'll also still look at the sheet. The sheet shows it to you like this. Looks like the column, the market's turned down a little bit since I started making this report. We used to have several green, but looks like the market's turned down. We'll look at a report, but this is your standard buffer report. This is the high yield ETF change and then the benchmark change. All right. So now I got a question from Tom. He asked something about Aptly. Yesterday I was putting an X next to out here in one of the columns if I had to change a strike, just because I wanted to remember to tell people, hey, these funds rolled. And I think I said something about Aptly, but then the strike didn't actually change. It was still 235. Well, I looked today and Aptly, what they did, so they rolled a partial. They on a partial position. So they still have most of their expiring tomorrow at the 235 level. But anyway, at the time I was still trying to look for a better way to consolidate this information and package it to bring it to you guys. And so hopefully I've found that way. These ones that are down at the bottom doesn't mean they're bad. Like Misty was well in the green yesterday, but they rolled well out of the money. We're gonna look at that in a second. But you could do that on Misty because Mr. is so volatile. I mean, you roll way far out of the money, and it's really not that far out of the money on Mr. It's the same thing as rolling, 2 strikes out on Apple. So it basically. Okay, so let's look now at the strategy. Let's do it. I want to zoom in on the strategy on one of these. I mentioned that MSTR, MSTY, that they roll. Now look at this. Their long strike, our target is 245. That's crazy. That's 26% away. That's insane, right? No, it's next Friday. So it's, what is that? 6 days, something like that. Okay. But I mean, still, it's insane, right? So I put the option trade in to option strat. Okay. Now you can follow along and do this trade with, with Jay and the guys at YieldMax. You need about $250 million in margin to put this on. But you seriously could do this trade on 100 shares, and it'd be a great trade. I shouldn't make light of it. That'd actually be a good trade on 100 shares. But anyway, so these guys, what they did is they bought. Well, they don't really have shares. They have synthetics, but they have 1.3 million synthetics longs, just equivalent of shares. Okay. And then they sold the 220 call. Okay. Now their cost basis, what they received was $3.60. It's only worth 80 cents now, 80 or 90 cents. If you had to buy it back, it cost you 90 because you'd have to pay the ask. But they sold it at $3.60. So that's good. That's time decay working. So the other thing about that is for protection, or just so they have uncapped upside, they bought this option behind it for 60 cents. Okay. So their income is only $3.60 plus negative 60. So they only made $3. Okay. Well, look, that's a $4 million credit. Okay. You divide it by how many shares outstanding you have in MSTY, and you can see how much it adds up for each share. It's going to pay a huge dividend. So here's the way people always did it before Jay brought the covered call spread to the masses. You would just have a covered call, and there's nothing wrong with this trade either. You just write the cover far out of the money, that if it does go in the money, that happens sometimes. Look, this one's 22% out of the money. In the old days, somebody would have just written one of those, and they would have paid their shareholders the entire $3.60. All right. So all Jay did is said, okay, we're going to pay our shareholders $3. We're going to buy this one behind it, even though it's a long shot that it goes in the money in the case that it does. And it did last week, their last position. That's because they've already rolled this time or two. Let's look at the chart of MSTR. I don't follow individual stocks that much. I follow indexes, as you guys know. Okay, down today, but it's been up lately. It exploded, and in the past couple of weeks, it went from 150 to 200, basically. Right? Okay, so they've had a couple of good rolls, but yes, today it's pulling back. All right, now also this. Know this. That number, the credit amount is correct. You could divide however many shares are outstanding on MSTR or MSTY, and you would figure out the dividend for this week with that number, pretty close. But this number, this up 35 million, up 33 million, I just guessed at the cost basis. I don't know the cost basis in the what's it called, synthetic, and it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't really matter to me. I was just trying to show you guys how it works. So what you're rooting for is you're rooting for it to go past the ledge. If it gets really the worst kind of a bad outcome for you is for it to go to the ledge and die. That's like the worst relative outcome in a bull case scenario. Believe it or not, if being up $86 million is a bad outcome, not to mention making $4.1 million in income. So, covered calls put you in win-win situations. That's the whole idea. That is the entire idea. So anyway, I hope you guys like that. Well, each week I'll probably do a different option, but since this is one of or the most widely held funds, maybe we'll just follow. I'll try to always have this trade in option strat. We'll follow it around. If somebody has a spreadsheet and wants to give me the cost basis of the synthetic, I can change it right here. I just put it in like it shares because it's just a pain to do a synthetic on option strat. But we can go right here and we can I just guessed 160. It exploded up from 150. It went to 190. I figured they got it along the way at 160 or something. I don't know. And like I say, and that really doesn't matter. All that stuff works out in the end. But what I was trying to demonstrate is how they pay you guys, and they get further upside. So here's the one other really important thing to understand what they've done. This is kind of inside baseball or whatever. But so what Jay does is and I've asked him about this too, and he's kind of confirmed it. I don't know. He's just a nice guy. He's just a nice guy. But he did kind of confirm this. All right. I bet their plan is to roll a day or two early. And the reason I say that, when you roll it, your give up is the ledge, right? That's your give up. Okay. If you roll, and they usually do this a day or two early, they did this last week. They don't really have the give up. They're just trading stock. So just like any other, ETF, they're trading stock. So they should make money all on side, depending on how much it goes up. Maybe a little bit less if they hit that area, but these kinds of trades are super profitable, and I'm super excited about them. They're great trades to do in your own trade. If you have 100 shares of this one, do you need $360, or would you be all right with 300? Because get this, if you have 100 shares, let's say even if you bought it today and you bought it at 181, okay, all you're agreeing to do is sell it at 220. Of course, buy it at 181, sell it at 220. What's that? $4,000. You make $4,000 on your NAV, which isn't your NAV, but it's your bottom line on your Charles Schwab account or Tasty Trade account. That's going to go up by, $4,000, and you're going to get $300 in your account right away that day or the very next day that you could spend on bills, and you aren't giving up anything. You aren't giving up that much, this is a plus EV, in my opinion. I'm not a statistician. If someone disagrees with me, maybe it isn't. But the way I see this is a positive expected value trade. I'm pretty sure it is. But anyway, Jay's got the system hacked. And if you don't wait till the end, which they don't, you never get the ledge. The ledge is a give up. So let's see realistically. We'll watch when Jay rolls this. Now let's see the optimum place to roll it based on this model. Monday or something. It also depends on where price goes, and then it also depends if vol goes up. See, if vol goes up, it'll fill in that. It'll fill in the gap. It will literally just be exactly like stock. There will not be any give up. See, but the reason the no give up is important, because think about this. That's why it's a hack. With $300, so you're making $300. If you did this every week, 300 times 52 to 200, so that's 15,000 a year doing trades like this. And what does this cost you to buy? 22,000, or it's 180. So 180, so 18,000. Like I say, and it's a hack of the system. It's almost free money. Now, one thing I did consider, this is out a week. Well, yeah, I consider that. So, yeah, it's a little bit more than a week. So you probably couldn't do 3. You'd probably be more like 200. So 200 times 5,200 is 10,000. 10,000 on an $18,000 investment. That's more like it. So that's about what triple QY pays now. It's 50, 60, 70, something like that. So, like I say, and because you have very little give up in the price of the underlying, if you're willing to own the underlying, that's the big catch. You have to be willing to own the underlying and take on the underlying risk. But if you are one of those people that's willing to own the underlying and take the underlying risk, the system is hacked, and the money Jay pays you from YieldMax, when he does these call spreads, is essentially has the system hacked where he's giving you money without really taxing the upside of whatever company it is too much. Doesn't mean he's always going to win. The company's stock still has to go up too for you to win. So, but it's like anything else, you're just picking stocks, right? And that's why these aren't good to trade. Buy 10 of them, blah, blah, blah. You guys know my spill on that. Buy 10 of them, allocate them to, 10 or 20% of your portfolio, sit back and collect the dividends. All right, guys. Well, let's check in on YieldMax one more time. You got a little bonus content, and when this market's pulling back, you got a little bonus content on the theory of options. But I've been wanting to make that video for a while. So anyway, I hope you guys liked it. Leave me a comment if you disagree or if you have any questions or whatever. Now, just because I said that, it doesn't mean YieldMax is a solution for everybody. And it doesn't mean that the call spread's always the best answer. I was just showing you guys how it is designed to work and how it's trying to be basically like a free money hack. And it's pretty successful, and it looks like it's pretty successful. So we'll keep an eye on it. But anyway, yeah, that was definitely bonus content. Okay, so the SPX, it rallied this morning, is pulling back. Now, that doesn't surprise us, viewers of this channel, because I always talk about my volatility model. The main thing it keys off of is this thing right here, which is the volatility of volatility. This is the IV of calls on the VIX. So people like you don't buy calls on the VIX generally, or me. I don't buy calls on the VIX. This is what institutions usually use. Not always, but in any event. So the institutions, when VIX is going up, it generally means that they're prepared for the market to go down, and it means they have hedges on. So it doesn't really surprise me that the market kind of turned around and petered out. Let's look at NASDAQ. It's going to kind of be the same picture probably. Well, not quite as bad on NASDAQ. I mean, it had a big gap down this morning, which is going to hurt round hill, which I suspect will hurt round hill. It does lots of times when it gaps down, but they get huge bonus points for gap up. Like I bet you Tuesday was huge in the round hill universe. Anyway, gap down today. So, they get some bonus here. They lose some bonus here. It all comes out. I mean, any of these things work. It just depends on which one meets any of these things could work. It just depends on which one meets your needs. All right. In any event, we need this to hang on. So the Defiance funds hang on to their triple QI hangs on to their profit there. Okay, and now we've already checked that one out. Let's look at Russell and USOY. And then let's look at the YieldMax funds that are up the most. Well, we got oil. We aren't going to look at that. That's fine. We just looked at, there's USO. Okay, that's for the YieldMax fanboys in the audience. That's for Mark. Or not YieldMax, the Defiance. The USOI fanboys. Mark's a USOI fanboy. I'm a Defiance fanboy. Look at GME kicking up. Look at NVIDIA. Even though the market kind of turned around and went back, NVIDIA's still up. Look at that. Amazon. Look at that. Killing it. Tesla up 0.5%. On the bad list, we have MSTR. We've already talked about them. They don't really look bad. It just looks like they're pulling back. We have AMD also kind of pulling back, and Coinbase also kind of pulling back. All right, guys. Well, I'll be back this evening with the wrap up. I hope you guys like the YieldMax update. I hope you like the extra options content. All right. Have a good day.